All right, welcome again to Social Distillation, the submarine still of the internet, where we attempt to drop the beat and pour white lightning straight onto your brain. What are we talking about today, Samo?
Well, we've got several things to talk about. We have to continue our discussion from last time on because we have the trolls abound on YouTube, and we got some comments to respond to, and we love to respond to comments. So you love us or hate us, write something down. If you hate us, write it down so we can actually respond to it. But you could tell they didn't listen to the whole conversation when they wrote it. But
Mhm.
and someone is going to owe us some money here in a little bit with one of these. But we're going to continue that conversation a little bit. I have some stuff that came up in class, and it was just a general thought, and I'm going to throw the information that I found out there, and you can draw your own conclusions. And it has to do with testosterone and major depression, which so some people might benefit from that in the audience. And you wanted to actually give an actionable plan for some of
Mhm.
this left-right brain thinking stuff, how to be more aware of your surroundings, how to be more aware of life in general, and you're bringing up the work of Dr. Beck to do that. So we've got I think it's going to be a shorter one, but it's going to be like really packed full of good information, especially actionable information. Where did you want to start? Let's start with the comments, I guess.
Sure. Let's pick up where we left off with the nonsense that we got.
Yeah, so Mike 9512 says no one is celebrating this. I mean, gosh, all you have to do is open up TikTok, Facebook, Meta, Instagram, and just start going through reels, and there you have it's all over. In fact, all I get, even though I don't know how my algorithm went there, but all I get is people celebrating or conspiracy theories that it didn't happen,
Mhm.
that it was staged. It was all staged, and I'm like, you can't live this. He was more useful alive to the movement than he is dead. So
Mhm.
if you want to go down that road, you got to justify that. He was probably one of the major influences that was responsible for the last election cycle.
At his memorial service, RFK Jr. spoke. He said that he had he was a much younger, but they had become friends. They had spent so much time together. And RFK Jr. said that Charlie Kirk is responsible for bringing those people together, the Maha movement and the MAGA movement. And
Hmm.
he said, I am here today in this administration because Charlie Kirk made it happen. He's the one that bridged that divide. He's the one that brought us all together for the things that we have in common instead of the things that we disagree on, which ostensibly is what the liberal movement is all about. Is it not? Am I confused on that?
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, him and the cat up in Pennsylvania that got the Amish vote out. They're
Yo,
probably the two biggest influencers. Gay, by the way, the other guy, that swung this election. So, but as far as your comment on no one is celebrating, yeah, they are. But you qualified it a little bit. You said name one mainstream influence, and we can name those that are easily name those that are trying to do the oh this sucks but he brought it on himself. That was, I mean, the guy got fired from CNN, whatever his face was, right afterwards.
there was a guy that got fired from Dowd, I think his name was, who was fired by MSNBC for the comments and his immediate speculation. And then I don't know, does Oxford University have
Oh, I forgot about that one.
is that mainstream? Do they have influence?
Yeah, the
Um,
university known for hosting debate.
uh-huh.
What the president, the debate president, wasn't that his? The guy who
Yep,
debated Charlie Kirk
yep.
years ago before he became is he celebrated it. But does Destiny count? That's what I want to say. Does Destiny count? I don't know why this guy is still so famous, personally. He everywhere you go, even his own side, and I'm going to bring up a video with Anna Kasparian, kind of. And if you don't know, she's Young Turks, so she's left wing. She's berating him in this video, and this is on the Piers Morgan show. Let's just go ahead and bring it up. But she's saying that, yeah, I don't agree with what the president said, is what she just said, but me as a person, I can't do this, is what she's saying.
Share a sound, Boomer.
Oh, damn it. All right, share. That should be the default. I'm sorry.
I thought it was when you checked it once.
After it, each
Well, it
video,
must be
though.
once per session. Yeah.
Done that. I agree with you on that. But that doesn't change the way I choose to respond to what's going on. The idea of mocking a woman who is now a widow with two young children who witnessed her husband get shot in the neck and bleed out to death. How can you mock that? What is wrong with you? I just don't understand it. That's it. I don't understand it. I don't understand you, Destiny. You have
What she said there, it kind of like broke up a little bit. I
Hmm.
don't know if that was part of the video as it is on here or us, but she said, "How could you do that? What is wrong with you, Destiny?" Is the word she said.
Hmm.
hatred in your heart, and at the same time, you
It's such
judge
a simple thing. If
others
you're
as
going to
hateful.
weaponize somebody's grief against the other party, well, then of course people have a right to fight back against it. I think that she has every right to grieve in whatever way she wants, but when that grief is going to be weaponized to do recruitment, political recruitment, and further radicalization of the other side, then of course you not only have the ability to mock.
Yeah. So her grief is a weapon. The woman whose husband just got shot, who is has to raise these two children by herself now, her grief is a weapon. And this guy keeps coming out I don't know why he keeps getting invited to these things because he's been this way. He was talking about after the attempted assassination on Trump, how he deserved it. How he was one of those I wish he had hit people. I wish he had not missed. And yeah, so does that count? Does that count, Mike? That's what I want to know. It's
Well,
on Piers Morgan. It's worldwide.
and not just so most of the larger platform people, whether they be the actual news people or pundits or just people with large followings, most of the ones I have seen have been doing this ghoulish tap dance where they themselves aren't celebrating it, but either, like this guy, they're saying it's not happening, or they're excusing it,
Hmm.
or they're basically saying, well, he was incendiary. He was, you know, bigot, homophobe, theocrat, white nationalist, blah, 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 blah. Jamel Hill was out there excusing it. Uh, she's mainstream. Joy Reid was out there. So I saw a hilarious clip scrolling through X earlier of somebody who a side by side of a clip of her um, saying that Charlie Kirk was a racist because she said that Joy Reid only got her, I don't remember if it was into Harvard or her job or both because of affirmative action. And then right beside it, a clip of Joy Reid herself saying in 2023, affirmative action is good because that's how I got where I am.
Yeah, and there was also a congresswoman. I'll try to remember the name, but okay. So this is also Mike. You deserve this here because you commented. Uh, the last paragraph here. Oh, and it wasn't. Let's have a conversation. In quotes. It was a 30-year-old man hosting a segment called "Prove Me Wrong." Dude, that was Steven Crowder. Steven Crowder was the "Prove Me Wrong" guy with the
Change
desk.
my mind is,
Changed
yeah.
my mind. Yeah, yeah.
Well, Kirk did it too. And I believe this specific event was, I think that was titled Prove Me Wrong. But the point is, anyone who wants to come up and have a civil discussion is given a microphone and a big platform because a lot of people watched Charlie Kirk and still are watching and sharing his videos. So it's a big platform. It's a big opportunity if you disagree with him. And he is saying, all comers, no gatekeeping. If you have something to say and you have a reason for it and think you can prove me wrong, then prove me wrong.
Yeah,
That is what is a conversation
and
if
your
not that?
your comment about dunking on college kids. Well, if college kids would quit thinking they know everything, they wouldn't get dunked on.
Well, the point is his entire point was look how easy it is to dunk on you because you are being brainwashed. This is not an institution of higher learning. This is a brainwashing factory
Hmm.
because you don't know what you don't know and you're not bothering to go find out. You
Hmm.
you are completely incurious about finding out the things you don't know. So was he dunking on college students? Yes, because they needed to be dunked on. because it's not like, you know, the I just mentioned Oxford. The Oxford debate union, whatever it's called, now president, was someone who he had debated before at Oxford, and he's out there laughing at it. His texts were, or his posts were literally, um, Charlie Kirk just got shot. Let's effing go. Charlie Kirk is dead. LOL. This isn't just a college student. This is someone who is in a position of influence, has a platform, and is also out there in the arena of ideas. And what he's saying is atrocious.
Mm-hmm. Well, here we go. We're bringing receipts. Don't need to share this one with sound because it's just a picture. If you're looking at it, it says Oxford. Oh gosh, the thing is over my Oxford president who debated Charlie Kirk appears to celebrate shooting. Message on student's Instagram account believed to have stated Charlie Kirk got shot. LOOOL.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. I mean, it's there. I mean,
This is an important distinction
you owe us a
too.
Venmo, dude. You owe us a Venmo.
This is an important distinction too, because there's a lot of whataboutism going on of, oh, I thought the right or the non-woke, because there are plenty of lefties who were on the same side of anti-cancel culture. Okay. Well, there's a couple of glaring fallacies there. And I wish I could remember who I saw post this on X the other day, but I thought this was a great explanation of what cancel culture was and why it was so bad. Because when the term came up and people were being canceled, they were having their reputations destroyed, they were losing their jobs, so they were being put in great financial distress, their lives were being upended for things that were within the Overton window, for the express purpose of moving the Overton window. Okay. And if you can't see that there's a huge difference between celebrating or excusing the political assassination of someone and a rodeo clown who puts on an Obama mask and is fired and never allowed to work again, if you can't see there's a difference there, that's why I keep talking about Martha Beck, and especially her example of the guy with the right hemisphere stroke who refuses to believe his own left leg is his own left leg, because that's where you're at. If you can't see the glaring difference there, you've got a problem, and you need to see the problem within you before you start pointing fingers at anyone else, because that's not good. The other fallacy here is, and I'm going to steal this straight from Steve Dace because I liked the way he framed this. And here was his analogy. How many German cities, and again, this is just an analogy because at least those of us on this side aren't actually advocating firebombing anybody's city. How many German cities did we bomb in 1935? How many did we bomb in 1945? Why? What changed? The point he is making, and has been making for a while, is the social compact is broken. And the people who came up with that term, what they meant by the social compact is we have these unspoken rules of civility that no matter how heated things get in our political and philosophical discussions, there are lines we do not cross, and we continue to live and work with each other. That has been broken. And if you cannot see that was already broken, and I didn't bring this up on Saturday because I didn't want to derail us, but I made the point when we talked in the aftermath of the first assassination attempt on Trump in Pennsylvania that, hey, this isn't new. This is escalated because it's a big effing deal to take a shot at the leader of the free world, or was and was trying to be again and did become. But I take you back to that 18-year-old kid who got run over by a middle-aged dude And the middle-aged dude's justification was he was a member of a white supremacist nationalist radical group because he was a Trump supporter. And we showed the clip from his, I don't remember if it was his plea hearing or I think it was his bail hearing. And his entire concern was how it was going to affect him and his life and the life he built. You're worried that your life is going to be destroyed. You just ended the life of an 18-year-old before he could ever even have a life. F you, dude. So it's not new, but this is an escalation for all the reasons we talked about Monday, and it is glaring. And the other reason I think it's so glaring, to shift us into some other things that we want to talk about this, and you've got something ready as this example is. And again, I've been seeing so much, and
well, I've got
could...
something else real quick too.
Go ahead.
This is, and I wish I would have just got the story up, but this is from PBD podcast. They got a graphic up, and it's most Americans say it is unacceptable to be happy about public figures' deaths, but younger and more liberal Americans are more likely to call it acceptable. This is not a Fox poll. This is not a Newsmax poll. This is not even a Rasmussen poll. This is YouGov. Okay, this is the government poll.
And once again, this is why Charlie Kirk was on college campuses, because that's who young, very liberal people are, college students.
Yeah. So for those that are just listening, very conservative, 7% agree with that statement of that it is. Do you generally consider it to be acceptable or unacceptable for a person to be happy with the death of a public figure they oppose? 7% very conservative. Oh, no, that's not 7%. That's 7% that were in the gray area. That's not even readable. I don't even know what that number is. It's less than 4.
Because it's 90% said it was unacceptable.
Yeah, so that's 3%. Yeah. Very liberal, 24%.
Said so that it is acceptable to celebrate a death.
Always or usually acceptable to celebrate a death of an opposing public figure. That's a 8 times difference. 8 times difference.
And this isn't, and again, this segues very nicely into the point I was going to make, which is that I wish I could remember who I saw say this so I could accredit it, but someone made a lengthy post on Twitter several days ago that the reason this is so impactful and within 24 to 48 hours was very impactful nationwide is, as this person put it, normies who they have Instagram, they have Twitter, they see these things, but they don't live here. They don't follow the news vigorously. And now all of the sudden they're seeing, as I pointed out, the breaking point for me was seeing a friend of mine make one of these, I'm not going to advocate violence, but posts. And so normal people are seeing their normal friends and family make these posts celebrating the death of this young man or excusing the death. As this person put it, I'm not going to shed any tears. And then if they don't know who Charlie Kirk is, they're either going to go look and find out, or they're going to see the other side normies who are making their own posts mourning Charlie Kirk's death and posting his own video clips, his own podcast clips in his own words. And they're going, wait, normal people, my children's teacher, my police chief, my whoever is celebrating the murder of someone they're calling a radical, and yet every clip I'm seeing shared of him, he is a reasonable person who, even if you disagree with him, he's engaging in civil debate and discussion, and you're celebrating that. There is this glaring incongruity that I think is waking people up to the fact that, it's the radical left may be small in proportion to the total population, but it is not small in proportion to the leftist movement. The modern leftist movement, including the elected party that represents them, are either celebrating or excusing this, and it's heinous.
Well, they're small but loud, And there's two reasons they're allowed. First of all, they're taught that the activism is not a choice.
Yes.
You are an activist or you are a bigot, one of the two. The second part is they are getting degrees in these stupid
Mhm.
collegiate pipelines that end up being in administrative roles everywhere. And so when you're in an administrative role, you control things. And so they are getting very influential places of power everywhere they go because people I mean you get on LinkedIn, you put your resume down and you've got your degree in something administration. And so you get hired to be an administrative person. And when you're in HR, which is administration, you control everything because everybody's job depends on you. And when you can hire and fire, you have all the power. And so these activists are going into places. This is not on accident, by the way.
Mhm.
They took over the departments of education on purpose because now they can educate your kids. They took over the admin departments on purpose because it's not about making money for the company. It's about controlling the company.
Mhm.
That's why companies are going under. That's why Disney's losing billions of dollars. That's why uh, American Eagle finally got it and pumped and changed their direction. It, because these people get in these places of power. The person in power is not the person you can name. You think Donald Trump is the most powerful person in his company? Oh no, it's all the thousands of people that make the daily decisions that run his companies that have all the power because they could bankrupt him in a moment. So yeah, that's how it came around. But let's go to back to the comments. So this goes into the last sentence of Mike's. Kirk never demonstrated any of the things his apologists are asking for now, plain and simple. We're about to show a video. So to your point, we're about to show a video where he did. And then we got Casey Barkle here. We all deserve to have someone in our lives who will fight for us the way Charlie Kirk fought for school shooters to continue committing school shootings. Alternatively, post a single quote where Charlie talks about trying to stop school shootings as opposed to justifying why they need to continue. Well, first of all, you are the accuser, so you need to post a video where he's actually backing school shootings.
Mhm.
And actually, he was about to say a sentence about school shootings when he got shot because that was the question proposed to him when he got shot. So, we may never know on that one. If you have anything as far as his direct quotes on school shootings, then you can bring it up while I'm pulling this next video. But to your point about, and to counter Mike's point, show one where he was all these things we're saying. This one you wanted me to bring up because it is him debating someone who all of these people who are celebrating his death would call a bigot. It is actually a true bigot. He is debating a true bigot. Share with sound. See, it is. Once you do it once, it's there. All right. So here we go.
As respectfully as I can. What does what they do in their private life concern you so much that you have to go up in front of a crowd and
it is against God. That is
so let
why.
me ask
Are
you
you
a
a
question.
Christian or not?
Do we live in a theocracy, yes or no? No, do we live in a theocracy?
You said you're a Christian.
I am a Christian. And do you know what? And guess what? I will say this. Part of being a Christian is appropriately interpreting what the theological says for the individual, but also means to be long-suffering and patient and loving and kind. Jesus Christ talked to all people. Jesus Christ went and did his ministry through Judea and Samaria, and he had dinner with tax collectors, and he had dinner with prostitutes, and he did his ministry in every part of the Mediterranean. What it means to be a Christian, my friend, is to be open-minded but firm in your beliefs so you can have that belief. But if you say there's something inherently wrong with communicating or associating just because they make different personal decisions than you, sir, are not a conservative. Thanks for being here tonight.
Well, there you go. So, again, said they would Venmo us if we can bring up examples, and it wasn't very difficult.
Um, so a lot of people were sharing this. I don't want to go down the
I,
um
I don't know
rabbit
if my
hole of
share
the
with sound goes over to you, so make sure you hit the button.
no, the it's just a post with a graphic. But suffice it to say, much like the headlines that I was talking about that this person shared on Facebook, um, you're taking as truth that he said these things that from people who are very clearly at best paraphrasing him, because you will see a word or two in quotation marks and then a big paragraph not in it, quotation marks. Someone is telling you what he said. Go and find what he actually said, because there was a back and forth he had with someone where he did say essentially, as part of his larger answer, that unfortunately gun violence is the price we pay for the freedom to own guns, in much the same way that I think the people who dance around with rattlesnakes are weirdos, but that doesn't mean we throw away the First Amendment. I think these people celebrating the death of someone are gross. And yeah, I don't have a problem, especially if they're a freaking teacher. I don't have a problem with people advocating for them being fired.
Hmm.
Okay. And
Well,
that is
again,
speech. That's not even counting the people who are advocating that, yeah, make Andy no next, make, Dad a Republican, make libs of TikTok next. There are people openly advocating for that, which isn't speech.
yeah, and it's this is the freedom of speech. These people can say whatever they want without getting fired. Well, their employer also has freedom to hire whoever they want
Mm-hmm.
and to fire whoever they want because it doesn't match the values of the company. So there you go. Well, the same people saying this right now were shoving down the throat of employers for years and years and years the thought of you have to say something in support of George Floyd or your
Mm-hmm.
company's going to go down. Well, if I have to say something in support of that, why do I not have to say something? You're using values and morality to get your way, but then when they have values and a moral code on what their company represents, all of a sudden it's infringement on rights.
Mm-hmm.
That yeah, no, no, no. The employer has exactly the same rights, and if you don't like it, don't buy from that company. That's it. Easy as that. And guess what? With the temperature in the room, they're not losing any money.
That is a good point, and also speaks to the values and the difference in the values and morals, and your unwillingness to even listen to someone whose values and morals are different than you, let alone engage with them, because that was Kirk's whole, and people like him, people in that space, in that movement, their whole point, my whole point about the lefties who immediately, even after Kirk's death, they're immediately calling for the assault gun ban again, even when turns out, oh, it was the most basic bitch hunting rifle is what the person used to shoot him. Just as basic 30-06, one of the most common bolt action hunting rifles there is, and bolt action, not even semi-automatic. But his point was the tool isn't the problem. We are sick culturally, and
Mhm.
we need to change that. And that is how he was addressing it. You may think he's wrong, but he's not ignoring it. He just has a different cure and a different look at the problem that you do. To that point, this started going around pretty early after the night and the next
Can you
day.
blow that up a little bit or
I'll blow up the
the
figure here in
the
a
figure?
second,
Yeah.
the graph he posted. But this was from back in April. And I think we mentioned this at the time. This is really disturbing. So this was a post Charlie Kirk made back in April. And so a lot of people started sharing it after his death because, yeah, boy, howdy. Assassination culture is spreading on the left. 48% of liberals say it would be at least somewhat justified to murder Elon Musk. 55% said the same about Donald Trump. In California, activists are naming ballot measures after Luigi Mangione. The left is being whipped into a violent frenzy. Any setback, whether losing an election or losing a court case, justifies as a maximally violent response. This is the natural outgrowth of left wing protest culture tolerating violence and mayhem for years on end. The cowardice of local prosecutors and school officials have turned the left into a ticking time bomb. And here is that graph that he shared, which shows justification for murder of Elon Musk and Donald Trump. And then also percentage who say destroying Tesla dealerships is partially acceptable. And the percentage here are percentage who say it's partially justified, or percentage who says it's justified. And you see it's already disturbing that you're talking about 30 something percent of respondents as is, but then there's a huge almost 20% jump when you look at left of center. So left of center people, almost 50% said, yeah, it's at least partially justified to murder Elon Musk. And over 50% said that about the president of the United States.
So I've been given the comments from people I know that listen to us that y'all are very one side leaning. The answer is I'm not violent. I mean, that's the answer. I do not agree with this.
You know what?
If that makes me leaning to one side,
Yeah.
well, hey, there you go.
What is our biggest disagreement and debate, both here on this channel and then personally when we discuss and when we argue, is the abortion issue. We are both very much pro-life, but we disagree significantly when it comes to how is that applied to abortion.
Yeah, that is true.
So there are certain things that aren't debatable. The left is right about that. Even the radical woke left, they are right. Yeah, certain things aren't debatable, except those certain things used to be the most basic of human rights. It used to be the Bill of Rights. Can we? All right, I know a lot of you don't like the Second Amendment, so can you give me at least 9 out of 10 of the Bill of Rights? Can we agree on that as a foundational principle? And then we can debate on the application of that. But now you have, and again, that this isn't new, is, before Charlie Kirk really came to prominence and built the big platform and audience he has, the left was out there, shouting down and throwing tantrums and running people like Ann Coulter and Ben Shapiro out of campus. Like violent responses to just the news that they had been booked to speak on campus.
Well, they held Riley Gaines hostage. They locked her in a room and threatened to kill her if she left that room.
A mob cornered her in a room and wouldn't let her leave until first she apologized for her views or you paid the mob money.
Yeah, they demanded lunch
did
and all kinds
nothing.
of stuff. Yeah.
The law enforcement and that school, it was one of the UC schools. I don't remember if it was Berkeley, but it was one of the University of California campuses. The police did nothing. Local law enforcement did nothing. School administrators did nothing. They are committing multiple felonies. Forget just the we have a problem that you people don't believe in the First Amendment anymore. You're committing multiple felonies and nothing is happening. There isn't a both sidesism here.
Do we want to get nerdy yet?
Yes, let's get nerdy.
Okay, so trust me, this is connected. I was in class the other day, and this class is psychopathology of childhood, and it is a required class in the school psychologist tract. It is an elective for me, so I am the only one that is not in that track. So it's a lot of regulations and kind of boring stuff. a lot of DSM classification kind of stuff, but we were going over the numbers of the topic was major depression, and we were going over the numbers, and the pattern you see is pre-adolescent children, about a 50-50 split male female, which is really hard to diagnose because I mean they don't even know how to communicate that kind of thing at that point, but it's about 50-50. And then you get to adolescence, it completely changes, and you have about a threefold uh, prevalence rate with females versus males. And then you get to adulthood, and it kind of evens out a little bit more, but it's still about double. And just that those numbers just popped out at me. And if you see the pattern there, can you get where I'm going with this? If you see that pattern, where am I going with this? Especially when we look at the benefits of TRT in older males. TRT being testosterone replacement therapy. Why do we have this huge drop in depression rates in males at adolescence? And then we also have a drop when we see testosterone replacement therapy in negative mood. And I just raised my hand and she was like, okay, what do you want? And I was like, could testosterone be protective for depression? Looked at me and I don't know. I've never seen anything on that. So while she was lecturing, I couldn't help but get on Google on my laptop and Google Gemini, put everything together. And yeah, actually, why I've got my source here is Wiley Labs. I'll just go ahead and bring that up on the screen. Wiley being a very, very prestigious research facility. As expected, lower testosterone concentrations were associated with higher depressive symptoms, and the magnitude of this effect increased with advancing pubertal status. In contrast, boys with higher levels of testosterone showed low levels of depressive symptomatology. That might be harder than ostracization at all stages of pubertal maturation. So could so I my big problem with a lot of this the pharmacological field is we medicate symptoms
Mm.
and we don't look for causes. Could it just be a testosterone issue with males? Now, I found on the flip side, females with too high a testosterone were more susceptible to depression. So, why this is related is the question Kirk was asked right before he was shot was, uh, why do you keep saying this is a trans issue with the school shootings, with mass shootings, when mass shootings are higher without it? And he said, did you separate gang violence from school shootings? And the person said, what are the numbers on that? And he got shot.
Mm.
Because if you do separate gang violence and mass shootings from school shootings and church shootings and all of that, the rate is extremely high.
Which you should, because there is a obvious difference between gang violence and the psychology of the mass shooter who is
Mhm.
doing something either because they are like, I mean, we do have people who are just straight up schizophrenic, who have been mass shooters, but then a lot of it is mental health ideology driven. So you
Mhm.
absolutely should separate those things out. You know, Jordan Peterson has talked a lot about the Columbine murderers. And that was something that kind of led him into a dark path, and he had to pull himself out, is reading into not just these kids, but then kids like them and how they get into that state and what brings you to that level of darkness.
Well, yeah, and that's important for this discussion because uh not every person that suffers from major depression is a nihilist,
Mm.
but major depression is a prerequisite for nihilism. And so if you're going to walk into somewhere and shoot a bunch of people and then shoot yourself, that is a prerequisite for it.
Mhm.
So now that we've had this uptick, and again, it's like I'm quoting Grok here, so check the sources, but it's somewhere around zero point 0.6, so 60% in the last 10 years, mass shootings that are not gang violence were committed by someone who was dysphoric. Uh, what happens when you take away testosterone from a young male, and we see that low testosterone is associated with major depression, which is a prerequisite for that? Or what happens when you give testosterone to a young biological female, and we see that that is an indicator of major depression in a young female? Again, prerequisite for the behavior that caused people to die. If we do this on a mass scale, what do you think is going to happen?
Mhm.
It's not about the guns, it's about the medication.
Well, and speaking of the cognitive dissonance, which is kind of today's theme, is that was the justification when the public debate around the changing your stick shift to an automatic transmission debate started going. A big, pro talking point was, well, we're just pausing puberty. We're just pausing it. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. And just, even lay people could tell, but what? No, we're not. And a couple of weeks ago, we talked about this latest shooting before the Charlie Kirk shooting, which was this Minneapolis shooter who went into a Catholic school, shot a couple of kids, a couple of teachers, and then
Couple 20.
himself. I couldn't remember
Two died, but there were 20 injured. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I remember. I was pretty sure there were 2 fatalities, and I couldn't remember how many were injured. But we went through. Andy No had dug through this person's manifesto, and what did you see? This person had become completely so disillusioned by finally running into the reality of, oh, there is no magic technology. There is no pill. There is no surgery that can transform me into what I want to be. I am who I am. I am always going to be this gender, and I wish I had never been brainwashed. Those were his words. I wish I had never been brainwashed. Now, what we discussed in that episode was, but then how do you go to that from that point of nihilistic depression of your own state to then say, so I'm going to kill a bunch of innocent children?
Mm-hmm.
And
well,
that's
and
the
also
hard thing to wrap
the
your head
target
around.
was weird, because if you felt that way, why did you target the innocent Catholic school kids and not the people who brainwashed you?
Mhm.
Because you should know the difference.
Mhm.
Of course, I guess I say that, but I don't know what they're teaching at that school, because you can't say Catholic in front of it and uh, say that they're actually teaching traditional values anymore.
Mhm.
A lot of private schools are going down the rabbit hole as well. But at the same time, we don't know that detail. But it's like, if you're going to be pissed at the world, at least be rational about it in some way, shape, or form. And that includes not doing the deed, because you can do a lot of good. Look at what's her face? Who's the
Chloe Cole.
detransitioner? Was that
Chloe Cole, I think is her
Chloe
name.
Cole? Yeah. Look at Chloe Cole and how much of an impact she's making.
Mhm.
She's been making the rounds. I I cry in movies and I cry in emotional situations, unlike a lot of men, but I think the only time I've ever cried watching a podcast was when she was on Timcast IRL and she
Mhm.
told her story, and everybody in the room was crying, I think, because it was so sad. And yeah, so you could focus your energy in such a much more positive way than just taking people out.
Unless your mind has become so warped that you cannot tell actual reality from your reality, which
Mm.
is what this book, Martha Beck's Beyond Anxiety, is all about, at least the first several chapters, is you get into this state where all that matters is the might and the maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is what your left hemisphere is doing when it is cataloging potential danger, is to protect you. But then your right hemisphere is supposed to work with it to say what actually is. Your right and left hemisphere is the classic philosophical debate that goes back to, I don't remember who coined the term is versus ought.
Yeah. Is it Kant?
I gotta look this up because I think we brought it up a while ago, and then I think we were wrong. I don't think it was Kant. Anyway, what
Descartes.
What,
No, Descartes was, I think, therefore I am.
I think it was Hume.
Okay. It was
David
going to be
Hume.
one of those. We just keep throwing philosophers' names out. We would have got it eventually.
Heraclides. Wait, no, that's not, I've gone too far back.
Heraclides. Oh, you know what? He would have said something like that, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be right up his alley. Let me just put this thought out there because we're going to transition into your action plan on the book.
Mhm.
But one thing I thought of when you sent that to me was, what does this mean? Because I said aphantasia would make this difficult because it involved mental imagery. And for those that don't know, someone who has aphantasia cannot picture something. So if you say picture an apple, they picture the word apple. They don't picture an actual apple. They couldn't describe it to you. And there's various degrees of that, where it's like, okay, I picture a stick drawing of an apple or something, versus I can say, oh, it has this shadow on it, and these little spots here, and oh, a little bit of brown spot, but I think it's still okay to eat, that kind of stuff. We also know that like 25% of the population or 30% of the population has no inner voice. So what do these strategies mean for people like that? Are they incapable of this? Are they incapable of even being helped? Are they only going to be basically sheeps walking this earth and following directions? I don't know. So if you don't get what I'm talking about, Heath is going to show us what the action plan was, and I think we're going to kind of go through it as a drill real quick, because I can see it, but I have a very good mental imagery. In fact, I'm like in the 98th percentile with facial recognition when it comes to that kind of stuff. So let's go through it and keep that thought in mind, because that's what connects it to everything else we've been talking about.
And this is the first. She has a number of these exercises, these practical exercises for dealing with anxiety. And this is the first one. And if you go to marthabeck.com, she has a bunch of exercises these that you can get for free. You just give her your email address and they email it to you. Unfortunately, it hasn't arrived yet, so or I would pull it up so you could see it. But I want to quickly go through the preamble to this. There's a reason why she's doing this, or this technique. There's a reason it works, and she sets it up with the movie A Beautiful Mind, which is based on a true story.
Seen, and it's on my list, and I keep forgetting about it when I'm trying to watch
in a nutshell. You had this brilliant mathematician, this math prodigy, and he was delusional, but he was so rational that he slowly began to realize, or let me just read the quote she gives here. Quote, gradually I began to intellectually reject some of the delusionally influenced lines of thinking, end quote. So he started to notice, wait, that's not right. And he didn't intuitively get it, but he was able to work through in an almost mathematical way. That can't be real. But as she says, rarely are people so scrupulously rational that they use logic to see the illogic in their own beliefs. And I think that's the big key there, is that's what really makes it hard, is your own beliefs. Because
as we talked about before, belief
thinking
influences perception to the nth degree. So
Anxiety, feeling terrified and endangered all the time, even in situations where we're safe, isn't John Nash level psychosis, but it is delusional. It's an imbalanced way of thinking that overemphasizes the perceptions of our left brains. Once we see that, we can reestablish more balanced worldview by activating our right hemisphere. In fact, you can do that right now. Here's the exercise. All right. So, first, think about something that makes you mildly anxious, not anything truly horrifying, but a situation that makes you just a bit nervous, like remembering to buy a gift for a relative or file your taxes on time. Notice how this mild anxiety feels in your body and emotions. Describe it here. I think that part is important as part of the setup, because that is a big part of this and later exercises that she'll talk about, is that mind body connection. The whole reason you've gone back to school to pair the psychology with the physiology is it isn't just a mental state. That mental state of anxiety produces a physiological discomfort to varying degrees depending on the situation and who you are.
Yeah, and I just wrote 3 down is as you were reading it, seeing a snake while I'm working at my mom's house. It doesn't scare the shit out of me, but it is like, okay, I got to be aware of this, and maybe I need to take care of it. Maybe I need to relocate it, or maybe I need to kill it. I don't know. Speaking in class, I have to do that later today, and taking a quiz, especially in a class like I just took a quiz for a class, the child psych class, and I had no idea what to expect because I had never had this professor and we had no lead ups. There was no anything like how was, and I got through the quiz and my anxiety was high because I was like, that was too easy. And I was like, there's no way this is a grad level class because that was too easy. And I got the results and I had gotten one wrong, 1 out of 10. And I didn't know which one I got wrong because they didn't release which because not everybody had taken the quiz yet. So you don't want one person to take it and everybody cheat off that one person. So I was like, well, shit, now I'm anxious to know what did I not know? And so, yeah, those 3 popped in my mind right away.
Now, let that thought go for just a minute. Instead, think about 3 things you love to taste. Imagine tasting them. List them here.
Are we after midnight here?
That is the other key here, and she talks about this in the lead up, and then afterwards is and to your point, some people this is going to be easier for you than others because you have a more vivid imagination. But it's important that you don't just think about them. You don't just list them. I mean, she does say list them, but again, listing is the left hemisphere's thing. It likes lists.
Because it changes to language. I mean, the written word is almost all left hemisphere. Now, right hemisphere can take over if you have a stroke or something, but anybody who's dealt with anybody that's had a stroke knows how difficult that is because they're trying to say something or they're trying to write something, but it doesn't come out the way they want it to.
But and part of the point here is, and she says, look, this is going to take some effort and more for some people than others. But the point is, it's an exercise, like doing actual exercise. You have to start. You have to start slow. You have to start at the bottom if you're not in physical shape and work your way up. So the more you do this, the more you activate that right hemisphere, the better you should get at this visualization, and then the easier it should come to you. And I have done this one a number of times now, and it does get easier as you go through. Now list 3 things you love to hear. Imagine hearing them. So again, don't just, I like the sound of this. I like the sound of that. Is no, put yourself there. I am on the coast listening to the waves. I'm not just thinking about hearing the waves. I am hearing the waves. Okay. Now list 3 things you love to see. Picture them as you write them. So again, we're not just making a list for the sake of making a list. It's you need to be inside your own head. And in fact, when I first started this, I could only do this when I was at my psychiatric appointment under the influence with ear canceling headphones on and my hat over my eyes. So I was really in my own head. That was, you know, there was nothing else out. It was just Beethoven playing in my ears, no noise, no sight, and I was just kind of drifting. And the first couple of times I did this, that was really the only place I could effectively do it. I have since gotten to where I can do it without being under the influence. Now list 3 things you love to smell. Remember the sense. That one is a big one because the olfactory is a biggie for so many people.
Yeah, it is.
That's why a realtor will tell you to bake a loaf of bread or some cookies if you're showing a house.
Yeah. I mean, chocolate chip cookies is number one. Oh, this was the worst thing about COVID when I had it way early in the day.
Oh yeah,
is I made those freaking cookies because I was all alone and isolated. And the moment I knew I didn't have smell was when I pulled those cookies out of the oven and I did which is the best part of making cookies, and I smelled nothing. And I was like, oh God.
Yeah, I forgot that was a big symptom of alpha strain COVID.
Yeah, I was Wuhan. I think I was either Wuhan or Alpha. It was so early.
Yeah.
But no, the thing about COVID that people don't understand is it wasn't we can go over the death numbers and all of those, and we've done it in past episodes, but for most of us normal, healthy people, the worst part about COVID was it took all the joy out of life. You were isolated, you couldn't taste, you couldn't smell, and brain fog, so you couldn't remember. And basically, if you really want to talk about perception, everything that we perceive is a memory because we're behind real life.
Good point.
Everything we perceive is memory. So if you look to your left and say the first thing you see, I see a sandal over there on my shoe rack. That was like 3/hundredths of a second behind reality. So everything you see is a memory, and if your memories are taken from you, you lose everything. And that was the worst thing about COVID was it took all the joy out of life.
That is, I've mentioned this before, but it's been a while. I can't remember the name of the episodes, but a while back, the Y Files did an episode on this idea of digitizing your brain. And they went through the numbers of how much information your brain is capable of storing, but also how fast it is. And it's astounding how quickly your brain processes things, that basically their conclusion was, yeah, unless quantum computing actually works the way it's supposed to and we can actually do it, it's not going to be possible because our brains are literally more powerful than
I would contest that with the computer that can beat you at rock, paper, scissors every time, because it actually perceives what your hand is doing before you even know what your hand is doing. So because it's like, again, 3/100ths of a second, and it can do it in 2/100ths of a second. So it actually, in that extra 100th of a second, puts the counter to whatever you put down every time.
All right. So last one.
Sorry, I'm also listing things. I've got a good list here.
Now
the smell was harder because smell is like, oh, I might have to change one. Okay, we can keep going.
Now list 3 things you love to feel against your skin, and we're not after dark yet, so it's not Discovery Channel after dark yet. So
yeah, I mean, hold on, feel against my skin. Okay.
And notice here we have gone through all the senses. So that is also part of this activation, is you are working those perceptory parts of your brain. You're activating them. Okay.
I'm going to put this in politically correct terms. Okay, there we go.
Okay. Next, see if you can remember or imagine a scenario in which all or most of the items above were or are present. Because each person's brain is unique, some people find it easier to remember an experience, whereas others can easily conjure sensations through imagination. If neither imagination nor memory works for you, Think of a place where you can assemble some of the things you love with each of your senses. Then spend time in that place focused on sensing each object.
This one is hard because of the first one. Because we went through the senses of what you like, but the first one is what makes you anxious. And so if I was taste ramen, I love ramen. You know I love ramen.
Mm-hmm.
Sight, a client's new max. Maxing, getting a new PR in my gym. I love that. I love the joy in their face. I love seeing the effort. That was one of the first things that popped in my mind. Uh, Chocolate chip cookies for the smell. Uh, a warm shower for the feel. I love a nice warm shower. But how do I put that with seeing a snake or speaking in class or taking a quiz, right? How do I put those together? That's where it takes some real mental gymnastics, I think.
Um, I don't think she wants you to include the anxiety yet.
Oh, okay.
You want that in your mind to register that feel of anxiety.
Hmm.
All right, now let's do an exercise and see what happens to that anxiety. And one of her points in
Well, I already
some
felt better listing those other things. So there's
exactly,
already that. Yeah.
yeah. So uh
Satin sheets too.
the
If you don't
the
have satin sheets, you need to get some
you do
satin sheets. Yeah.
the last two in this exercise is briefly describe the physical and emotional sensations that arose as you compose this fantasy situation. And then finally, notice what happened to your anxiety during the time you were composing, experiencing, and writing about the scene. And one of her prompts here is that I think is important because it goes to the point of why you're doing this and why it works is um, write a brief description of the scenario that combines some of your favorite sense perceptions. As you do this, use present tense language. That is also, I think, another key to this exercise is as you're thinking it through and or writing it down, don't
Uh,
say, oh, there was this one time or, oh, I would like to. No, no,
and I'd also
it's
probably
happening
add to
now.
that use first person.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so what was the prompt again?
Uh,
Read it from the beginning.
oh, so after you
Yeah,
have
yeah,
your
after the
lists,
list. Yeah, yeah.
see if you can remember or imagine a scenario in which all or most of the items above are present. Then spend time in that place, focused on sensing the object. And as she says, if you don't have the kind of imagination where you can pull that into your mind and feel like you're there, then you may have to sit down and assemble these things. You know, get yourself, a slice of fresh bread, or turn on nature sounds if that works for you. Take your favorite blanket because it's nice and soft, and wrap it around yourself. Actually get all the things together. The point is to be in that place focused on not just recognizing that the objects are there, but really sensing them. It's the the opening to Die Hard, greatest Christmas movie ever. And he doesn't like to fly, and that guy tells him, "Yeah, neither do I. Tell you what you do," which is great setup for something that happens later in the movie. Take your shoes off when you get to where you're going, and just work your feet into the carpet. Sounds weird, but it works, and it does for anyone who has that kind of tactile, you know, uh, sensitivity. That just rubbing my bare feet on the carpet just makes me feel a little bit better. Why? Because there's a sensation there. So I'm not just in my own head making lists and worrying about what might be or what could be. No, I'm here now in the moment. You bring up, you know, Zen or Buddhist meditation a lot. And that is the hardest thing about that. When you learn how to actually do it and how it actually works, the hardest thing is being present.
Hmm. I just wrote a opening paragraph to a romance novel.
Well, I was gonna say that one of mine on smell is I love the smell of fresh peaches
Hmm.
when the peaches are coming in off of my fruit trees. I thought that might get us
Well,
derailed and
one of mine
demonetized, but
was just the sea air,
mm,
the air coming off the ocean, and I'm having a wonderful ramen dinner with my partner by the ocean, and one of mine was the feel of the warmth of your partner up against you,
mhm.
and so she's sitting next to me, pressed against me, and to tease me, flashes her boob, which was on my site, and and yeah, so it was all of the senses. It was the sea air, it was the warmth of the body, it was the visual, it was the taste of the ramen, and yeah, it was all of those things. And I'm like, that was actually very, very nice to write. That
Yeah,
little thing. Yeah.
it does help, and the more you do it, the better it works, and the easier it works.
Hmm.
In you have talked about, so this shouldn't be a surprise, and here we are back to the mind muscle connection. The reason you get such quick gains when you start lifting, especially if you haven't done it in a while or haven't done it, is neurological. That what is being gained there so quickly is your body mapping those neurological pathways to fire those motor neurons to do that movement.
Hmm. Well, and it even goes a step further because we talk about and we talked about this in class on Monday, the importance of play. There's actually a thing called play therapy for
Mm,
kids. The importance of play, and I automatically included play in my little story I wrote for myself based on that thing because she was teasing me. We were playing around, it
mhm.
was, and that play is actually one of the best cures for anxiety, I think. When you're playing, you're not anxious. When you're like locked in and uh yeah, it's hard to use this word because play has a failure rate.
Hmm.
If you're playing football and you're in front of 70,000 people in Reliant Stadium and you play a prevent defense when they have three timeouts left and give up the touchdown for the loss, that has consequences, right?
Hypothetically speaking,
Yeah, hypothetically speaking, and if you can see, I am still a fan, even though, uh,
0-2.
yeah, 0-2. Uh, yeah, there's anxiety there. But
Mhm,
play as in I'm playing around with my friend. We're playing right now in this conversation,
mhm.
right? We're throwing things off each other. You just gave me, something to do that was a fun little exercise, and there was no loss to this other than not listening to you. Being engaged in the moment with you was why I benefited from it because I wasn't just thinking of my own talking point. I was listening to you give the advice of Martha Beck, and I was taking it, and we came out with a wonderful product. And it was playful.
Well, you just segued me into my kind of closing thought, but also the tease for next time because I want to talk about this in more depth is connecting. There is a difference between being with someone or connecting with them, being someplace and connecting with that place. And that connection is key. It's why you might um you might get a little bit of a mental boost from being somewhere public because man is a social animal and you need that interaction,
Mhm.
but it's not going to be the same as if you're, there's just one or two or three of you close friends and
Hmm.
you are actually connecting as opposed to being in a crowd. You know, going to see live music, you've talked about how good that is for your brain and how much you personally like it, is you've got the live music, you've got the performance of the band, you've also got the crowd around you, everyone engaged in liking the same thing. So there is a kind of connection there.
Yeah, I'm going
Uh,
to a concert in 1 week. So yeah, it's going to be great. But also sports events. One of the best events of my entire life was OU OSU wrestling meet in the
mm,
old Gallagher Iba arena, and it was the alternate heavyweight against the number one in the country heavyweight. OSU alternate, OU number one in the country, and the OSU alternate won by 1 point. And that whole place was about to come down.
yeah,
And
it
I
was
always tell
loud.
this story because it was Daniel Cormier's debut at
Hmm.
OSU. For those that don't know, we're about the same age, and he became heavyweight champion of the UFC at some point. So it was that whole because people would stomp their feet. They would stomp their feet, and if you were in that old Gallagher Iba, it felt like the whole place was going to fall down.
Hmm.
So it was everybody in unison creating this experience, and that is something. Concerts, sporting events, all of these things bring out that part of us, and it's very necessary. I mean, it was so necessary. We had freaking gladiator events in Roman days, right? It is
Yeah. And that's what I want to talk about more in depth later because I mean, you have, um, let me back up a second to play and then
yes,
get
yes,
back to
yes.
here because one of I was actually I was just talking about this with my dad the last time I was visiting there because I was showing him the book because my mom is reading Jonathan Haidt's Anxious Generation, I think is the title.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
The Anxious
because
Generation. I got it right there.
she's
Yeah.
she is still a
Wonderful, fantastic. Yeah.
middle school teacher and someone had told her about this and she was like, man, I need to read this. And
Well, and it's great because it has all the data in there and it's very easy to follow all the graphs, all the tables, everything. Yeah.
but a lot of how we get here is what Haidt talks about in there and what Peterson talks about when he talks about play is and I'd even brought up to dad that this is why you're doing what you're doing now going back to school because you noticed this a while ago but you noticed it on first on the physiological side of as you pointed out, I don't remember if it was last time or the time before when we brought up fitness, is this is the technical term. You were seeing more and more kids that were motor morons. And
Yes.
your hypothesis was because so many of them are sports specific so early now.
Mm-hmm.
And everything is structured. And then you
Mm-hmm.
started to notice, wow, they're not just motor morons, they're social morons.
They're
They are
they're everything that is involved with development morons. F- People give them shit. Freud was right. There are developmental stages. If you
mhm,
don't like Freud, let's talk Piaget. Their stages match. They just talked about it with different terms.
yeah. And those stages are being interrupted by you have got a supercomputer in your pocket that instantly connects you to whatever and whoever you want
That and overprotective parents.
and
And
overprotective parents
over uh what should I call it?
over
Rigid,
regimented lives.
over regimented. Yeah,
Yes,
over regimented school systems. Yeah.
the regimentation of their lives leads to rigid mental thinking.
Yeah, kids
That is
don't
the
play
whole
anymore. They have
point
play dates.
of what Beck is talking about
Yeah.
here is that, and she goes into more detail about all the ways our society has become so left hemisphere dominant. And the result of that is that you don't experience life, you're just going through life.
Hmm.
Well, besides just being really sad, that hurts your brain. That weakens your brain the same way sitting too much weakens your muscles
Hmm.
because you are not truly experiencing. And so your brain isn't flexing and working and trying to figure out, is this branch going to support my weight? Should I climb a little higher? Ooh, did that stick just move?
Yeah, well, and that's actually important because you use the word regimented. This is how subtle it is in our brain, but how important it is. Climbing a rock wall and climbing a tree do not have the same effect because you trust the rock wall to be stable. Whereas the tree, gosh, One of the things I loved to do when I was a kid was climb the flimsiest tree I could find and see if I could balance on it. Because it was a young new tree and it would sway and everything in the breeze. And you didn't know. You didn't know. I mean, the old oak tree was easy. The big
Mm-hmm.
giant branch that's this big around, of course, if you grab it, it's not going to break. But that flimsy tree that's got the branches that kind of move when you grab them and
Yeah.
stuff, that was a challenge. And that actually has been shown to have a greater impact on how your brain develops because of one word, risk. Now let's talk about social interactions. You are making friends. What you say has risk. Your opening statement, you only have like the old adage, you have one chance to make a first impression. That's why we have so much trouble with approach because it's so impactful. The first words I say to you are going to have the biggest impact compared to any other word I say to you the rest of your life. I might be able to come back from it, but it's going to take 10 times the work if I mess up the first time. Whereas if I get it right the first time, I can screw up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's risk. Your brain develops on risk.
In the same way, I keep going back to these analogies because it seems so much more intuitively obvious, but also I think easier to visualize the physical example. You are breaking down your muscles when you lift heavy weights so that they can rebuild stronger.
Mm-hmm.
You are flexing your brain in an uncertain situation where you might not succeed, but it's going to make you stronger. It is going to make you mentally stronger.
Which is one of the reasons I went back to school with what I'm doing is because it was that realization that they're the same.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's some different mechanisms, a few different neurotransmitters, a few different chemicals, a little bit different cell structure, all of these things, but the principles are the same.
Yeah.
CBT works because it's exercise for your brain. Education works because it's exercise for your brain. Taking,
Cognitive behavioral therapy for anyone who doesn't know
yeah,
what
CBT is
that is.
cognitive, yeah, behavioral therapy. Uh, what was the one we were talking about the other day? Behavioral. I can't remember what the A was, but it's basically doing things that boost mood systematically on purpose to actually increase your mood. So I'm feeling down. Get up and go for a walk. I feel a little bit better. But
Hmm.
you do it systematically so it actually does have an effect. And it has to be something that you can do. Like listen to a certain song that makes me happy. So I do that 5 times a day at these times, that kind of stuff. So it was these things work if you actually do them. But we actually grow up automatically doing them. It's actually culture that takes us out of it. Culture is the adjustment to nature.
Hmm.
And most times, 99% of the time it gets it right.
You
But
know, this there's a good segue there to our closing thoughts because we like to
oh yeah,
rant
I have
about
to go too.
football.
Yeah.
We like to rant about football a little bit, and I was talking to my wife about this because she's a manager now, so she has to deal with management issues, and she was kind of grumbling about the way they do their evaluations and analysis. And I made the point of here's a just kind of hit me a good analogy about that, but also applies to what we're talking about here, applies to what Beck is kind of harping on is there is a difference between fantasy football and actual football. And I was grumbling during the evening game, the Texans versus the Bucks, because I kept hearing the name of your defensive end getting called out. But the more I watched, the more I realized, you know what? My guy's having a really good game. He's just not getting the stats.
Mm.
Why? Because all the fantasy game cares about is the number, the end product, the things you can check off on a box to say you scored these things, you did these things. An actual game is like real life. It is full of chaos and contradictions and paradoxes and risks and rewards and ebb and flow.
Hmm.
And so you can't just look at the numbers will help you. The numbers will help you evaluate what happened. In a football game, the ultimate number is the final score. But okay, how did you get there? It's like a game wasn't that close, you might hear sometimes, because you get some garbage time points that make the score look closer and can thus be misleading. And so don't get so hung up on checking boxes and accomplishing things that you aren't recognizing and thus experiencing the ebb and flow, the chaos of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a great example to stick on your fantasy football one was, uh, people like Jalen Ramsey or uh,
Revis Island when we were
Revis.
younger.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I kept wanting to say Ellis Island. I'm like, that's New York.
Well, he did play for the
Revis
Jets,
Island. They score horrible on fantasy football, but they were the best to play. The reason they score horrible is nobody throws their way because they're so good.
Mm-hmm.
They're so locked down on their receivers that they basically don't get any attention because the quarterback already rules it out. I'm not throwing to that spot. And when they do, they usually pay the price. And so yeah, it's the if impact matters, you would know more than 5 offensive linemen's name. Right? Name 5 that aren't on the team that you watch regularly.
Yeah.
Most people can't.
Yep. It's certainly not current ones. You might be able to rattle off the name of 5 former ones that were famous for, making the Hall of Fame or whatever. But current active. Let me think. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, you're absolutely right. So that was a good positive note to end on, especially since we started on some retardedness.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is the beautiful fun of the chaos of life. Is I was grumbling looking at, trying to set my fantasy lineup, and because you are trying to make a judgment off of an end result from something that is inherently chaotic, I'm going, I don't know if we have enough information yet in this season to know what's what and who's who.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Except for Lamar Jackson was a good pick for you.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's part of the fun of both a game like that and the game of life in general.
Yep. Well, good. I'm glad we ended this one positive. On the last episode, I couldn't do a funny meme because I could not do a funny meme with the last one, so I just put the tribute picture up. What are we talking about Saturday?
I have no idea.
But it's going to be Wheel of Time related. We've thrown out some ideas, so we'll think about it if you want something particular. So anybody else in the audience, just let us know, and we will talk about that because we've got a few days to prepare. I've got class tonight, so I'm going to talk about idiot stuff with them. Anything you want to close with?
No, I think I've said my piece, and I'll just let my brain ruminate on what we're going to talk about Saturday.
All right. Like, subscribe. Thank you for hanging around, and we'll see you next time.